I feel like I'm got my violin out here making excuses a little bit, but I used to drum all the time when I was a studio musician. Sometimes months will go by now without drumming. As much as I love drumming, I'm always drumming in my head, but actually physically making my body, this body just turned 50, trying to sit down and like play very, very fluidly. Sometimes it works. Quite often it doesn't. And I need to just sort of just bring the feel in. My longtime engineer, Ian McGregor, and I kind of figured out a way that really works. You sort of take like the main elements, like the snare, anything that's giving you lots of main beats. And in this case, it's the snare top mic. It's definitely the kick in. Maybe that's it. That might be all I do. Maybe toms. And I get them to be seen by Beat Detective. I'll show you what I mean. I'm going to tell Beat Detective to only look at, come out of a group. So that's the kick in. I want it to also go to snare top. And probably hi-hat. I think for the purposes of this, I'll see if that helps. It may not. And I will grab the toms as well. So let's open up Beat Detective. I never use these things. I just go straight to clip separation. It's very important that you say capture selection so it knows what you're doing. The selection always wants to be on 0 ticks, whatever you're doing. So make sure you're on 0 ticks. There we go. And I'll say capture selection again, just in case. You got to tell it you want 16th notes, 8th notes. I want 16th notes, like 1, 2, 3. Those are 16th notes. There's different types of analysis. Enhanced resolution is the only one that consistently works for me. So I'm going to say, go ahead, analyze those tracks. And then the sensitivity is different on every song. 19% sensitivity seems to be doing quite a lot. I'm going to try just that, like 22%, to see what that does. So before I say separate these into audio regions, I'm now going to select all the different tracks by holding down Shift and being careful with the mouse. So it's applying those region lines to all the tracks. And separate, boom. Now clip conform. And this is where things get fun. So if I do nothing, it'll be 100% quantized. I almost never do that unless I'm playing to a lot of loops that are super, super, super quantized, and then you don't want anything flamming. So I'm going to say strength, 75%, something like that. There's no swing. This is a straight feel. So I'm going to try that. And then edit smoothing. I like to select fill and crossfade and usually select 5 milliseconds, sometimes 10, but let's try 5. Okay, do your thing. And now I'm going to check it out. And sometimes this works flawlessly. Sometimes there's certain sections that trip it up and it gets confused and it puts everything to the wrong beat. Let's see what happened.
House numbers, zip codes, birthdays, and airplane votes. I could never pass them by. I rearrange them, add them up, multiply till I find luck. Anything to call it a sign. Well, maybe I'm out of my mind. I see my lucky number everywhere I go. And I know I'm where I'm supposed to be. Swear it follows me down every road. Always shows up just when I need to know that I'm where I'm supposed to be. I'm where I'm supposed to be.
So far, I'm really happy with that. I wish I sounded like that when I sit down. If I played for like 2 weeks, I would. I know I'm the only one that cares about that, but who cares? At the end of the day, it's got to sound right coming through the speakers. Ultimately, even though I'm paying all this attention to detail in every little element of the song, And the devil is in the details. God is in the details. They're both in the details. I don't want anyone to even notice the drums when they listen to the record. I only want them to hear Bryce singing. That's it. I want them to just get lost in the feeling of the song, and all of this stuff should sort of become invisible and just create this sort of like REM state, you know? And quantizing this to 75% strength seems to just makes me smile. It's what I wanted it to sound like.
New city, no car, don't mind the walk, but not this far. Thought I found my dream apartment, had all I ever wanted. Turns out it could have been a closet. Nothing's going right, but the second I look at the time, right?
Some of this stuff will get wrecked. Once I listen all the way through with everything in, I'm going to solo the drums and make sure that nothing is getting munched or wrecked. I definitely heard something that got kind of screwed up here. So the way that I fixed that is I basically turned off the beat detective in that moment. I just dragged a region over. It's exactly as I played it. That sounds better than what was going on before. And sometimes that happens. It's just whatever it takes to get me to where it sounds right. I'm going to try and do something right now where, like, the side stick is a very hard thing to record. And it's very hard to know what you're going to want that thing to sound like once you add all these other elements to it. I haven't even put bass on this yet. So I could add a sample of a stick, but what I'd rather do is use the actual side stick, the live side stick that I'm playing, and do some sort of like parallel processing to it where it is gated and the only thing we're going to hear is the side stick, not getting any hat. And it's very controlled and very EQ'd and very like this beautiful kind of knock sound. And then I will blend that in with the real side stick. I'm going to duplicate the snare top mic and call this stickness. Only solo it. I'm going to start with a gate first. One of my favorite drum gates is the FabFilter gate. So I want the release longer, maybe a little more hold. Let's turn the oversampling on to 2 times. So now I'm going to squash it with something. Let's use the UAD Distressor, which sounds absolutely ridiculously great. There it is. That is what I was looking for.
Airplane roles, I could never pass them by. I rearrange them, add them up, multiply till I find luck. Anything to call it a sign. Well, maybe I'm out of my mind. I see my lucky number everywhere I go, and I know I'm where I'm supposed to be. Swear it follows me down every road.
Now, what I did for the side stick, I'm now going to do for the live snare. I'm going to keep the live snare exactly as it is, and then probably duplicate the live snare once or twice, and then process the shit out of them, and then blend into taste. It's more parallel stuff, because I really want that to be like this beautiful Jeff Porcaro kind of like whoosh thing, kind of. Right now it sounds a bit sort of plain and boxy.
Where I'm supposed to be. Where I'm supposed to be. I see my lucky number. I see my lucky number. I see.
So I don't like when I did that thing, and I'm just going to duplicate the hat track, just like a little like, clutch hi-hat.
Lucky number. I see.
I might not be able to because there's a big symbol there.
I see my lucky number. I see my lucky number.
Okay, I can do it if I mute the overheads in a very sneaky way where no one notices.
Lucky number. Lucky number. I see my lucky number. I see. I see my lucky number. I see. I see my lucky number.
It sounds weird. I'll make it work.
I see my lucky number. I see my lucky number. I see my lucky number. I see 19. I see my lucky number everywhere I go, and I know I'm where. I see my lucky number. I see 19. I see my lucky number everywhere I go. I see 19. I see my lucky number everywhere I go, and I know I'm where I'm supposed to be. Swear it follows me down every road. Always shows up just when I.
Okay, let me do one thing to the snare. I'm going to duplicate that track twice. And I'm going to get rid of everything before the bridge and after the bridge. Make sure I'm doing this to the right tracks.
I see my lucky number. I see my lucky number. Where I'm supposed to be.
Okay, let's put that gate on both of these. Let's see how it's behaving. So I'm playing with the threshold and the hold time and the release time. I found that I was getting too much other drums showing up to me, like toms, a little bit of kick drum. And I'm trying to find sort of an overall setting where this bigger snare just feels right. And usually, you know, because drums, there's a lot going on, you can automate the threshold, or I will just go in and, because this is a duplicated track and all I want to hear is something that's going to help the snare drum, I'll just cut out the other things. I'll just lose them, delete them, or mute them, things that aren't a snare. You can do all of it to make it work. Sounds pretty sweet to me, 135 on this snare. I'm up 10 dB at 135 hertz. Yeah, I'm just listening for it, sort of like the kind of martial arts sound effect that I want to hear from the snare, like a stomach punch. Ooh. 220 is usually a really great snare frequency. That was a Jerry Finn favorite. Jerry Finn mixed Dookie and all kinds of amazing rock records. He's unfortunately no longer with us. I wish I'd met him. He's great. I always trying to beat his mixes and never will. So I started at 220. This particular snare is already pretty deep, tuned kind of low, and I just found just sweeping through the frequencies that 135, 138, 139 just sounded kind of great. I'm going to hear that, back it off to nothing.
Supposed to be where I'm supposed to be, where I'm supposed to be, where I'm supposed to be.
So I want to crank the gain even more on that ooh sound.
Supposed to be where I'm supposed to be.
I'm going to call this one snare Boosh.
Supposed to be
Now I want to control the dynamics a bit.
supposed to be.
One of the UAD Fairchilds.
Supposed to be where
And I actually want to put the EQ after the compression. It gives me a lot more bottom end.
supposed to be where I'm supposed to be, where I'm supposed to be, where I'm supposed to be, supposed to be.
So the reason I'm doing this on duplicated tracks in a parallel manner and not just putting it all on the main snare is because I love the flexibility of parallel compression, which is something I didn't do until just a few years ago. I mean, I did do it in sort of a macro way. I would send a lot of things to a Gates stay level, just a mono thing, which is a Jim Scott trick that he showed me many, many, many years ago. But you can do it with everything. You can do it with vocals. You can do it with any element you want. You can do it with contrabassoon. So what I'm doing here with the snare is I want the snare, the actual snare top, the original one, to be just pretty natural, to be kind of the way we recorded it. I might do a little bit of stuff on it, but just to make it a slightly better version, mix-wise, of what it is. And then I want this deep kind of thing to be its own thing, which I can blend to taste and probably change the level of throughout the track. And then I think I'm going to do third snare, which will probably be brighter and more explosive, and maybe even put a little distortion on it or something just to sort of mess it up and see if that works in the track. I don't know if it's going to work, but I want to try. If I put all of these things on the main track, I could start messing with plugins that have a mix knob, and we could do that, but I just prefer kind of spreading it out and having full control. Just grab a fader and it changes the whole flavor without wrecking the original source. So now I'm going to listen to, I'm going to call this Snare Smash. And just listen to this in solo, and I'm going to loop it. Well, let's see. So what I've done is I've got a third snare track. It's all the same snare tracks. I've just duplicated the original one twice. So it's a total of 3. And I've got the Boosh one sounding where I want. And I've called this third one Snare Smash. It's gated pretty heavily. I went through and chopped out some things I didn't want to hear, with toms and kicks bleeding through. And I'm going pretty aggro on a 550A API, UAD, 10 dB of 7 kilohertz, 6 at 1.5. And nothing else. and then adding some of the devil into the mix. It is the devil's music after all. So it's just a little, I put the crunch at 2.5, a little bit of darkness. Devil always sounds better with a little darkness. Mix is at 5.5. And this could be really fun to blend in. It could be useless, but let's find out.
Where I'm supposed to be. Where I'm supposed to be. Where I'm supposed to be. Where I'm supposed to be.
So it's making the snare in general too loud, but it sounds good.
Where I'm supposed to be. Where I'm supposed to be. Where I'm supposed to be.
What I'm going to do is go to the original snare. I'm going to duplicate that one more time so that the original side stick lives by itself, and then the original snare can be on its own track, and I can change the level and just sort of get in and change things quickly. So I'll call the first one side stick, and let's call you snare full. I want to get rid of this, and then on this one I want to get rid of everything around it.
Where I'm supposed to be. Where I'm supposed to be. Where I'm supposed to be. I'm supposed to be.
I'm going to clip gain down the bottom snare mic during the big snare section because it's just bugging me.
Where I'm supposed to be.
And I'm going to do the same to the overheads. It's just too much of a good thing.
Where I'm supposed to be. Where I'm supposed to be.
So right now I've got the snare mics completely out of the mix.
Where I'm supposed to be. 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 I see you not looking where I'm supposed to be. Where I'm supposed to be. Where I'm supposed to be.
So now I'm going to take all the full snares and bus them to their own full snare bus. Snare bus. And we're going to make you guys be bus 18.
I'm supposed to be. Where I'm supposed to be. Where I'm supposed to be. Where I'm supposed to be.
Okay, let's see what we've got here. Maybe this.
I'm supposed to be. Where I'm supposed to be. Where I'm supposed to be. Where I'm supposed to be. I'm supposed to be. I'm where I'm supposed to be. 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 I see you now like you know I'm supposed to be. I'm where I'm supposed to be. Where I'm supposed to be. Where I'm supposed to be. I'm supposed to be. I'm where I'm supposed to be. 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 I see you now like a number. I'm supposed to be. I'm where I'm supposed to be. 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 Supposed to be. I'm where I'm. Where I'm supposed to be. Where I'm supposed to be. Where I'm supposed to be. I see.
I think. I want to put that guy in the snare. Get the grace notes coming up. Fast release, not that much threshold. Experimenting with putting this on the first track, just me hitting it. There's nothing on it right now. It is being bussed with some more compression and some voib.
Where I'm supposed to be. Where I'm supposed to be. Where I'm supposed to be. Where I'm supposed to be.
I think I'm going to give it a little gate action as well. I want to gate out all the other tom. It's like it's a very busy part. I'm playing like tom stuff and lots of ride cymbal, and because I'm compressing it now, so I'm bringing up all the quiet stuff and limiting the loud stuff. It brings up all that other noise. And I'm going to look at maybe a little EQ after the compression. Stay in the same area code here with this guy. 10K is just a great snare frequency. It's just great. I met Hugh Padgham once outside of what is now called Henson, but it was still A&M when I met him. And I was a huge Stuart Copeland fan, a big Police fan. And I always said to myself, if I ever meet Hugh Padgham, I'm going to try and make my mouth work and ask him how he got that snare sound. And he said, you know what? Obviously, Stuart's a huge part of it. And he tuned his snares pretty high. But Hugh said it was just a huge amount of 10K. And he's such a lovely man. And he said to me, he'd never met me before. I was still in my 20s. He's like, do you think I overdid it? No, it's the best snare sound ever. 10K.
Where I'm supposed to be. Where I'm supposed to be.
I am really happy with how this is sounding. I want to check in with Bryce.